Hey everybody, welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another Choosing Beggar Reddit video. If you are new to the channel, then subscribe and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers. In our first story, a nurse meets a choosing beggar in the wild and experiences the horror of trying to make her Christmas better. Let's jump right in. This is my first post to Reddit ever, so please be constructive with criticism if needed. Please, I'm not a writer, so forgive my mistakes. The backstory is I'm a nurse, a single mother with two boys, 9 and 7, one of whom is special needs, which I pay a considerable amount for services. I'm a single income family. I work hard and I save for everything. My kids get an allowance for chores and they have their own savings accounts. This is relevant to the Choosing Beggar events. I work in the neonatal intensive care unit, and that means many and most are not prepared to be there with their newborn or preemie. As a side note, my oldest was in the NICU, so I know how tough this can be. This year, during the pandemic, I've seen and heard of more hardships than I have in my total 8 years previously. I decided that this year, rather than receive my $100 Christmas bonus, I asked if I could sponsor a family and provide items they needed. I had a particular family in mind. It was between two families. One family with 5 kids, or a family who were having their first baby. I picked the first family. I wanted the other kids to maybe get a bit more for Christmas, or even just to be able to have a Christmas. I was given permission. My boys and I started our fun project and proceeded to buy things the family had previously mentioned not having, such as things they've asked friends and family for but were told were too expensive, and I even got a wish list that the father provided me. Last night, I showed up to work super excited about bringing these items to the mom and dad. A few things. The family does not know my situation, or that by providing for them, my kids are receiving less this year. However, they gained a lot through the experience, and to me, that is worth more than any toy, book, or monetary thing. And I didn't mention that the money for the items came from me and my 7-year-old. He donated some of his savings from his allowance. I explained to my kids what we were doing with my bonus, and as a family, we had a great time picking out the items. My sons were both super happy to be giving to another family. There were a few things that even with me adding money in, we weren't able to buy, so my 7-year-old told me to take it out of his allowance savings that he's been saving for 9 months. For those of you without children, that's a long time to a 7-year-old. I show up to work, presents wrapped, and excited. Again, these were all items I had either overheard the mom say they were lacking, as well as a wish list of newborn and preemie items the father provided. I went over my bonus, added money of my own, as well as my son providing his savings. I didn't expect much, but was hoping that by gifting these items, the family would have a great Christmas, as well as suffer a few less hardships. I bring the items to the parents. The mom looks and asks what it is. I tell her it's an early Christmas for her and her family. She starts to open the items, and as she opens each one, she gets more agitated. She makes comments like, "Oh, great, another thing for the baby," or, "Oh, great, a coffee card that someone probably got for free." It was a $30 gift card to the place she always has coffee from, the place she always asks people to bring her coffee from, and it most definitely was not free. She's been using a breast pump at the hospital, so I splurged and bought her one, as this was an item many had told her they can't afford. They can't even afford to rent it, and she plans to continue to pump once she gets home. At the end, she looks at me and said, "This sucks. No one thought of the older kids or me. Where's the gift receipt? I'd rather have the cash. This kid wasn't planned anyway. They won't even know if they don't have these things." It's true, I didn't buy gifts for the older kids. The father told me they were covered by a charity. I bought essentials for taking the baby home and things that will make their remaining hospital stay easier. These were all things she didn't have to safely have the baby at home, as well as a few splurges of things she wouldn't have from her previous children. At any rate, I feel extremely discouraged. Thanks for letting me vent. The part that got me was the father not even saying anything to her about it. As in, his spouse is a total choosing beggar. He had a great deal to do with what was received, and yet he mentioned nothing to her. If I hadn't kept it anonymous, which I did so that she would not be uncomfortable about receiving the gifts, I'd definitely tell her that I actually spent not only my bonus, but an additional $230 from our pockets. $140 of that came from my 7-year-old's savings. He volunteered and wanted to spend it even after me explaining what that meant for him. He was so happy to help. Here's an update. Though the mom has been warned by administration multiple times, she's been trying to sell the items to other families. This is not okay due to the pandemic, as we cannot room share or anything like that. Ask anyone admitted, they'll tell you they were sent home with medical things needed or not. At the hospital, once something enters a room, it gets sanitized for that room specifically. As in, we used to have blankets that got sanitized then redistributed, and now these super nice blankets go home with the family. It sucks. At any rate, I wanted to think she was stressed, but she tried to sign adoption papers without her husband's consent. I won't get into it, so it's not specific. However, she's been trying to extort those unable to have children and capitalize on their pain. I can't and won't go into detail as to why this is the case, but imagine trying to sell your child. This has all left me pretty discouraged, but I'm not passing that on to my son. I have been lying to my 7-year-old and telling him how appreciative the choosing beggar was. At least this can still be a positive lesson for him, as well as a learning lesson for me. In story number 2, we have a life lesson of why you shouldn't babysit for a choosing beggar. Okay, so a few things to make the story make sense. I'm a teaching assistant at an inner-city nursery school. We work with a lot of families who need our help in various ways, and mostly they are wonderful people and incredibly grateful. The childcare is entirely free to them, as this country provides 15 hours of free childcare to all 3- and 4-year-olds and 30 hours free for working families. Parents of 2-year-olds who meet the conditions can also get 15 hours. This is early targeted help for the most in-need children. The parent in this story has a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old with us. Due to the pandemic restrictions, the school is still open, but no one in the area is supposed to be mixing in other people's homes. It's not really my story. It happened to my colleague on Friday, and she just told me about it today. I'm just stealing it to get my precious 7 karma. I will not be using her real name for reasons that will become obvious. There are only 2 relevant characters in this one, Tammy, my colleague, and Karen, the parent, a young mom of 3 living on her own. Here's the story. Tammy always used to babysit for various parents pre-pandemic, but obviously hasn't been doing it recently. Last week, Karen started pestering her to babysit after work on Friday, and finally convinced her when she told Tammy that she needed her to come for just a couple of hours while she did the Christmas shopping for the kids. She said she is on her own and can't get them presents while they're there, as it will ruin Christmas for them. Tammy agrees to 3 hours of babysitting for £15, which as a parent myself, I consider to be a bargain. So Tammy goes straight from work on Friday to Karen's flat to find 5 children there, and Karen and a friend getting a lot more dressed up than you would to go shopping. Karen explains that as they haven't been out in so long, they just want to look nice, as shopping is the most exciting thing they have going on now. Fair enough. Karen introduced Tammy to her friend's kids and explained they were staying the night, so Tammy was watching them too. Not cool, but Tammy lets it slide because she's far too nice a person. Karen and her friend leave, saying they'll be back by 7 and explaining where the kids' tea is, etc. At 7:30, Karen texts to say they're held up but will be back by 9 and asks Tammy to put all the kids to bed by 10. Yeah, I know. She then stops responding to her phone at all. Karen and her friend stagger back in at 2:30 in the morning smelling of booze and weed and explain they'd gone to a party. Tammy just wants to go home and asks for her £15. She didn't even try to ask for more despite being there an extra 7 hours, and Karen starts swearing at her and asking why the flip she should pay her. She rants about how she's entitled to free childcare, how Tammy was just sitting there, and calls her a racial slur. Tammy feels very nervous and just leaves. Bad enough, right? So yesterday, Karen sees Tammy as she's picking up her youngest and apologizes for shouting and being drunk, but no mention of the racism or the money, and then sweetly asks if next time she babysits, she can make sure to bring a packed lunch, since Tammy had made herself a sandwich whilst there. You know, money is actually tight for some of us, she said. This is John from Slash Bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to see more of them, then hit that subscribe button. We'd love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.